Can we vibe code our way to a smooth onboarding flow that collects real user preferences from training goals and even a profile picture so that we can fully personalize our app experience? Without writing a single line of code ourselves? Let's go! Hey, Alex here from Grit AI Studio, and welcome back to Build with Grit. In our last episode, we built a full-featured workout library, but we're still treating every user the same. That ends today. In this episode, we're going to use AI to help us brainstorm the perfect onboarding questions. We're going to build a multi-step onboarding flow for new users. We'll store training preferences in a dedicated Supabase table, and we'll add support for uploading a profile picture. And then we'll give users a profile page where they can view and edit everything. As always, we're building a running coach app, but this is all applicable to whatever product you're building if you want to capture user preferences, goals, or customize the experience to your users. Let's kick this off the smart way by asking the AI for some help. By now, you know that I love using O3 to help us with scoping out our features. In this case, let's ask for some help with mapping out the onboarding process. I already have some ideas around what I want here, such as goals, current training preferences, and so on, but let's see what O3 comes up with. We'll ask ChatGPT, for our running coach application, I want to add a personalized onboarding process. What are the most useful questions to ask during onboarding to personalize training plans? Please suggest 5 to 10 questions that balance user goals, running habits, and training preferences. We probably also want to capture current personal bests and basic personal information. The process should capture essentials, but not feel too long or tedious. A pro tip here is to not just use the answers, but to refine and remix them to match your audience and the flow that you're aiming for. We'll take the best of these and use them to build our onboarding form. Now let's ask O3 to create some choices to simplify the experience for our users, and also collect everything into a markdown file that will make it a lot easier for us to prompt Cursor to build this feature for us. Now we can drag the file into Cursor and use it later when we start building our onboarding flow. O3 has created a nicely formatted flow with each step neatly described, with options and even suggested types to capture the information. At the end, we also have some UX notes. This is going to make the build step a lot easier for us. Finally, as a bonus step, we'll also ask O3 help guide us with how we can structure and store this data in Supabase, and we'll even ask for some RLS policies to go along with it as well. O3 gives us a nice overview on how to set this up, with the full SQL that we can then bring into Supabase. Now, I run these prompts inside the same project in ChatGPT as I've done with my previous planning prompts. So O3 is aware of the scope of our project, what we're currently working on, what we've done in previous videos, and also what we have envisioned for the future. I would highly recommend that you do something similar to get great results with maximum context. You may remember we already have a profiles table tied to Supabase authentication. This table is perfect for basic user information like name, email, and potentially our profile picture. But for training preferences and onboarding data, let's keep things clean and use a separate table as O3 suggested for us. This also lets us scale up user data later without bloating our core profile. We'll make use of the SQL that O3 offered to us to set up the run profile table and a personal bests table, where we'll capture all the information from the onboarding flow, such as goals, training preferences, current personal bests, current volume of training, and so on. We'll also remember to turn on row-level security on both of our tables here. As we did in our last video, we'll copy the RLS policies from O3 and paste them into the SQL editor in Supabase. Make sure you check out our previous video in case you missed it and want to learn more about RLS policies. In this case, we get an error as O3 is not entirely privy to our current setup in Supabase and made a mistake. We can use the assistant in Supabase to help us debug the issue and resolve it for us. In this case, it was just a simple matter of O3 wrongfully referencing the user ID. There we go. Now everything is working. Now, we haven't talked too much about SQL or SQL, and with help like O3 or even the Supabase advisor, we get away with not really knowing too much about SQL. But in essence, what we're doing here is creating these tables and define each column in the table. Each column has a name and a data type. Here we see text fields, and some of these fields are numeric fields, like integers. We also have date fields. Some fields have a not null at the end, indicating that they are required fields. We also specify connections across tables and indexes that we use for performance gains. But we don't really need to worry too much about that right now. Okay, so now that we have our data tables all set up and our onboarding flow mapped out in our markdown file, let's vibe code a smooth multi-step onboarding form in Cursor. We'll use agent mode and Claude for Sonnet. We'll prompt for a multi-step onboarding form. Create a multi-step onboarding form for our Running Coach app. I've outlined the flow in the attached file. Use this to create the flow with questions and answer options for the user. Use the Supabase MCP to check the structure of our run profile and personal best tables and create the appropriate type definitions. We'll tag our MD file and we'll ask Cursor to use the Supabase MCP to check our table definitions and create the type definitions for our two tables, run profile and personal best. We'll also add that the flow should be triggered for users on the /dashboard page if they have not previously gone through the onboarding process. Cursor will plan the steps and get to work. We can monitor the process and view the remaining steps in the to-do list. Okay, so let's review the results here. Cursor recaps what it's built and provides a nice overview of the user flow. Just like we asked for, the user will be redirected to the onboarding flow when they log in and will go through a 10-step onboarding process. Then the results will be submitted to Supabase. Cursor has also added a step with a success message after completing the onboarding and a profile page where we can later edit our profile. It's useful to review the summary here to get to know the structure of our code, as this makes it easier for us to navigate and understand what the AI is building for us. Here we see that our onboarding flow is found in the /onboarding route, and the API used for sending the data to Supabase is here. Now you can see the structure of our application here. We don't need to understand everything, but we're learning step by step in this series, and it's good to understand the basics of how things are connected inside of our application. Over time, you can be more specific when prompting and guiding the AI to get less and less errors and better results. Our Next.js application is organized inside this app folder. And as you can see, each subfolder here corresponds to a page TSX file, which you will recognize as each of our different pages and subpages in the application, like our admin page, our dashboard page, and so on. On our dashboard page, we can see that Cursor has now added a check to see if the user has completed the newly created onboarding process. That check is a function that we can actually find in a different file over here. If we look at that function, we can see that it does a query against Supabase to see if this user has done the onboarding. If the user has not completed the onboarding, they will be automatically redirected to the /onboarding page. If they've just completed the onboarding, we display a welcome message to the user. The actual onboarding process is found over here in this file. Here we see that we have a component. This component takes in two functions, one to handle the completion of the onboarding and one to handle the skip option. So in essence, we pass in these functions to the component. When we look at the onboarding component, we notice the file is red and there are some squiggly lines here, indicating type errors. We can simply ask Cursor to review these and help us fix them. And there we go. All errors are gone and everything looks to be okay. In this component, we see all the steps from our markdown file. Okay, that's enough code review for now. Let's test this thing and see if it works. Wow, I was not expecting everything to work on the first try. That's really cool. And it looks great with a progress bar and everything. Let's test it out by going through each step. Okay, so a primary goal would be to run a PB half marathon. When is my target race? Even got a calendar here. Okay, let's just pick a date here. How many days can we dedicate to running? Well, here we've got some nice option buttons as well. Let's go with 5. Surfaces or equipment. Let's just pick some of these. Okay, so now we can add some PBs. Let's throw a few in there. Okay, let's just finish the rest off quickly here. What motivates me? Coaching tone. Okay, let's hit complete. Great, there we go. We can see the message on the dashboard as well. Now we can head over to Supabase and check that the data has been stored successfully. And it's all there. Now all we have to do is stage all of our changes here. Let's generate a commit message. And then hit commit and sync changes. Honestly, I'd not expected that all of that would be so smooth without hiccups. The only thing we ran into was some TypeScript errors that Cursor fixed without breaking a sweat. In the last video, we faced a lot of issues, but we dealt with them and then captured the learnings into an updated rule file. We're using this rule file in our project, and that clearly helps a lot and has dramatically reduced the number of issues. Now we've captured user information that gives us a solid foundation for future features in our app, such as personalized training plans and our planned AI coaching. Once a user has onboarded, we want them to see and update their information anytime. And we also want to make it even more personal with a profile picture. So this is a great opportunity to introduce you to another cool feature in Supabase, namely the storage. Storage buckets lets us store and serve digital content such as images. We can control access and we can allow our users to upload content through our application. We'll also ask O3 to guide us through the process here, but it's actually quite simple. O3 suggests that we create an avatars bucket in Supabase Storage, and then add an avatar path field to our run profile table. We also need to set up appropriate RLS policies for this to work. We can either use public buckets, which allows anyone with a URL to view the file, or manage access with signed URLs for private access. Let's just set it up as a private bucket for now called avatars and add a few restrictions such as file size. We can also set some limits in terms of what files we want to support. Now let's add the avatar path column to our run profile table. Lastly, we'll set up the RLS policies with the script we got from O3. Now we have storage policies set up for our bucket. Okay, let's build our profile picture feature in Cursor. Let's ask Cursor, now let's add a profile picture upload feature for our users. We should add a profile page where they will be able to upload their profile picture. We should then display the picture on the profile page and the small circle version of the profile picture next to the username on the nav bar. We've already set up a Supabase storage with a bucket called avatars to where we can upload the file and save the URL to the user's runprofile.avatarPath field. Use a drag and drop area with preview. So we're specific about the Supabase storage, the avatar path, and that we want a drag and drop area. We also specifically ask for where to display the profile picture. Okay, so that was pretty quick. But we can see some red files here. In this case, we can see that the red lines appear where we try to import something that Cursor has created. We can check that this actually exists just to verify. And it seems to be all in order. These type of issues sometimes happen when files are created by the AI and the type server running in Cursor has cached types prior to these changes and essentially gets confused. It looks like errors, but very often it's not an actual error, which is of course very frustrating. Now it's easy to start debugging and asking Cursor to fix errors, etc., wasting your time. So here's a pro tip that saves a lot of hassle 90% of the time when this happens. Click View on the menu bar and then Command Palette, or use the shortcut Shift-Command-A on a Mac. Now for this to work, you need to have one of the TSX files open in Cursor. Then you can type in restart TS server and select that command. This will restart the type server and the error will disappear. Remember this trick for the future. Now all is good. No errors and we can check our code. Accept the changes and run our app to test things out. Cool, we can see a symbol for a profile picture up here. And there we have our profile page with the profile pictures section. That's really cool. Down here, we also see some of the information captured from our onboarding process. Okay, let's try to upload a picture. Unfortunately, that did not work. Let's try asking Cursor to help us out. Still not working. No error this time, but something is clearly not right. We see the picture for a fraction of a second and then it's gone. Let's check Supabase. Okay, so the picture is actually there, but it seems like we're just not able to display it. That might be an issue with RLS policies. I'll ask Cursor and add these observations. After some debugging, Cursor managed to figure out that this boils down to the storage bucket being private. We can now either make it public, which it actually recommends as the easy option. And it's not really a problem, as profile pictures in social apps like this would typically be viewable for any user. This does not mean anyone can change or delete the picture, only view it if they have the link. The other option is to go with signed URLs, but I think we should be good with a public bucket. So let's simply switch our bucket to public and then save that. Now let's try again. And there we go! It's working! That's awesome! Now, one thing we want to fix is that it seems pictures are not removed from storage when we remove them and add a new profile picture. That can definitely become a problem if we just keep piling on more and more images. Let's tell Cursor that it now works, but that we need to fix this problem and clean up pictures that are removed by the user in our application. Okay, let's try the process again. We'll remove all the pictures here. Try adding one again. Then let's remove it again. Okay, it works! Perfect! Let's fix a few minor styling issues as well, and then let's ask Cursor to help us with making a complete profile page. Let's now make our profile page complete by showing all the profile information we collected from the onboarding process, and also add the possibility to edit and update this information on the profile page. Let's have a look. So now we have all the sections on our profile page and edit buttons to edit the information. We can change some of this information and verify that it works. Great. Everything works fine. Seems like we have a little type error here. Let's just fix that while we're at it. Okay, so one last thing I want to fix before we wrap up for today is the goal section. This feels a bit off right now. Let's ask cursor. Great. Now, one thing that we need to expand on is the goals. Currently, we specify a primary goal and a target event date, but not the actual goal. For instance, if the user selected time target. Same applies if they answer finish distance. This also applies to the onboarding flow. That's a lot better. Now we can select our target distance and then a target time. Perfect. Let's try saving these changes. Oh, we got an error message. Let's check the console log in Cursor to see what went wrong. Okay, so we got an error message back from Supabase. Let's just paste this into our prompt here. Cursor provides us with a SQL script that we can copy and run in Supabase, as we've now introduced goal distance and goal time target in our logic, but we haven't actually added these fields in our Supabase table. Let's just run that in the SQL editor in Supabase. Now we can try making our changes again and then saving these changes. And now it works. Just one last minor detail, and that is the link on the dashboard page that should point to our profile page. Let's fix that. And there you have it, a complete onboarding process, profile page, and support for profile pictures. Let's stage and commit our changes. So let's recap. We used ChatGPT to brainstorm smart onboarding questions. We built a multi-step form to capture user preferences, and we added support for profile pictures. We stored all the information in two Supabase tables for clean separation of concerns. And we now automatically route new users through the onboarding process. And finally, we created a profile page to review and update everything later. This is where great user experience starts, when your app feels like it knows and supports your user from day one. Whatever you're building, I hope you found this video helpful and that you continue this vibe coding journey with us. I really appreciate if you hit that like button and subscribe for the next episode, where we'll build an actual run planner for our users to create their own personalized training plans. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.